Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, welcome to the fourth installment of my video series, which is a complete build of a 175 gallon reef system, which I'm building for a client. Today we're going to do the framing for the tank, or as some people call it, the bracing. And as always in my videos, I like to show you the end product and the raw materials to start off with. This is all 1/8 inch aluminum, be 1.5 inch strapping for the bottom, 1 inch strapping for the cross pieces on the top, and 1 inch angle for the framing along the top and also to hold the lights. And that 1/8 inch angle has, as you can see, a square inside corner, which makes it much easier to keep out of the way of the glass. And here are all the pieces cut and drilled and ready for the final assembly, except for the bottom braces, which don't need to be assembled. Here they are here with their 3 holes each, which are all countersunk. And this is the final frame, which normally I would stop at, but I'm going to put the lights on this one as well. So I built a top frame for the lights, which is this here. And this is attached to the bottom frame with 8 1 inch by 1/8 inch strapping pieces, as you can see here, and they hook up to those bottom brackets, which I will show you how to make shortly. And this gives you the complete frame, which goes over the top of the tank. Alright, that's enough of an intro. Let's get to the build. First we have to cut all that aluminum. For this I use my metal cutting bandsaw, which you see here. It's already been all set up. All I need to do is measure and cut. Sometimes I have a lot of repetitive cuts, which actually I do in this particular build. I will use the stop on the metal cutting bandsaw if it is short enough, or if it's too long I will use the fence on my table saw, which this is sitting on. But this particular time those 8 inch pieces were just right in the middle, so it didn't work out. This is one of the 6 inch piece braces, or brackets, sorry, for the bottom frame, which I will use to attach to the top frame. This one happened to fit right into the right sweet spot, so you can see I'm using the stop for the saw there. Anyway, lots of cuts. I'm not going to show them all to you. It was like an hour and a half. Suffice to say, the most important cuts were the 5 cross piece cuts for the frame that fits right onto the tank. So let's just move on to the drilling for the bottom braces. There's 8 of these, 3 holes each. And then they also all have to be countersunk as well, so a lot of drilling. As you can tell, I've already moved this into fast forward. What I do is I will measure accurately the first piece, and then just clamp and drill, flip, clamp, drill, flip. I do have to move it a couple of times because for the center holes, and then also I have to reposition yet again once I put in the larger bit, which you see here, for the countersinking. And then I think I'm going to show you one more. The critical distance here is the width or height once you flip it over. So there's all the holes drilled. The plywood is 3/4 of an inch, so I want the center of that bottom hole 3/8 of an inch from the bottom, so that the hole when I put the screw in, it's right in the middle of the plywood. And here we moved on to drilling the holes for the top frame for the tank. The most critical part of this is the measurement of the holes for the 5 cross pieces that are on the frame that will go right onto the tank itself. So what I'll do is I'll end up taking the best 5 and the 3 remaining ones, which I'll maybe off by like a 1/16 of an inch or whatever, I'll save for the frame that holds the lights in place instead. So when I measure these, what I'll do, which you haven't seen yet, is I will just turn the drill on and just lightly touch it to the aluminum to give it a score, as you see there. And then I'll remeasure, shift slightly, remeasure, shift slightly. I've also shifted this into fast forward because this does take a little while until I finally get it accurate enough that I'm happy with it. And then it's back to the process of clamp, drill, flip. Unfortunately, this has gone out of focus, so you only get to see that little bit there. I know it seems like this has been a few weeks that I'm having camera issues, but this actually all got filmed in the first, I think, 3 days during this build. And then as I got to the point where I was realizing that when I started doing the editing for the videos, I realized that I was having focusing issues. I solved that focusing issue. And I think this is actually going to be the last video where this shows up. But yeah, I have unfortunately lost a fair amount of footage. So I apologize for that. These are the 4 brackets that are going to go on the frame that fits right onto the tank, and then they're going to be used to connect to the top light holding bracket. And what I'm doing here is I've drilled the 2 holes that are going to fit onto the bottom frame, and then I'm shifting over so I don't have the bolts binding with each other, and I'm going to drill the 2 more holes, which will be the verticals, and you can see those are the 4 holes offset. These kinds of time constraints happen quite often in builds, so I get pretty good at shortcuts, and this is one right here. What I could do is, if I had the time, is, well, I have a milling machine, so I can measure quite accurately, and I could just drill all these holes separately. But because I'm in a rush, what I do here is I just clamp the piece on to where it needs to go, then I just tape that into place, and then all I do now is just stick it onto the milling machine and line up the hole that I want to drill with the existing hole, and then just drill straight through. The lengthwise positioning of this is not very critical. As I'm within about 1/8 of an inch, you will not be able to see a difference. But these holes have to match up, so this saves me the trouble of having to worry about whether or not I'm going to have to ream out a hole, and then I don't want to do that because it just makes things sloppy. And after a long day of cutting and drilling, we're finally ready for the assembly, because I have to actually be on site the next day after this to put the framing on, so all the silicone will cure before the fill process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay all these out on the shop floor, which I should state has never been this clean. One of the added benefits, I guess, of making videos. The important part here is that all the bolts go through the frame at the same direction. In this case, the bolt head is the most consistent distance, so what it'll do is it'll be on the bottom. I'll just feed the bolt through and then put the nut on top. This is going to be done 122 times. I'm only going to show you a few of them. So this is the bracket being put on here. I've shifted obviously again to fast forward, and I'll just tighten that down, and then once it's in place and I've got it where I want it, I will cut the tape off and move on to working on the next one. And here we go. The bolt through bottom, through to the top, put the nut on, and then tighten in place. And as you can see, once it's in place, it's all nice and even, and then I'm going to do the rest of them. And then for me, a while later, but for you, a few seconds, the bottom frame's all done, and it's all set, ready to go in the tank. All I need to do now is assemble the top frame, which holds the lights. And then one part of the video, which you actually really haven't seen any of, is I need to cut the spacers, which will hold this up away from the top frame, and then bolt them into place. And here it is being lowered onto where the brackets are going to be. And then those 8 verticals will be bolted onto those brackets. And here it is all done. And even though this is aluminum, I was getting a little concerned about the weight of this. Not so much for the stress on the tank, but for when I put this on the tank, it's going to be silicone in place, and that buffer I was worried that it would get squished out. So what I've done here is I set up the fence of my saw so that it's wider than the thickness of the bolt. And I made a bunch of spacers of 2 different sizes, so that we won't have to worry about that anymore. Unfortunately, my video editor will not do this in one big piece, so I've divided it into 2. This is the end of part A. Please join me for the second part, where I will do the installation of all these bits and pieces, and hopefully I'll see you then. Thanks again for watching. Bye. Hey everybody, thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, please slap a like below, or if you want to see more of this type of video or some of my other work, please subscribe to my channel. And I will see you there. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.